What's up, guys? Today I want to give you a updated item guide. I'm sure most of you know most of this. This is just for those people that haven't played the new patch yet and are unsure of how the new items work. The changes aren't huge, and actually it's a lot easier to figure out now. Basically, your common items, which are these gray ones, all combine into an epic item now, and then you use the blue items to make legendaries out of the epic items. Essentially now you can get any of the common items in any of the early rounds. So a lot of the early game items now are pretty OP. While before you would pretty much find like a frantic mask or maybe pretty much frantic masks and like mana items were like the big thing in the last patch because you couldn't get pulse staff early, but you were able to get a refresher early. Now refresher is a lot harder to get because you need a blue item which comes in the later rounds, so there's no more like level 10 refreshers. Now you have to just think about like what epic items you want for the first like 20 rounds. So essentially nowadays, let's go into like the items that changed. So this changed. This used to be that a mana crystal plus a mana crystal plus a ring of life would make you an orb of regen, which was just basically combining those two things, which was like 100 mana and some HP regen. Now for orb of regen, you use 2 mana crystals and it reduces your cooldown by 20%. The thing is though, I wouldn't combine this item most of the time early game, because if you keep your mana crystals separate, you get 100% mana regeneration from each one, and they stack. So with knowing that, it's better keeping them separated until you find your refresher item. You know, until you find your Mysterial Staff, it's better to just keep these separate. Because a lot of people combine it, and if you're playing like mage versus mage, if you don't combine them, you'll have more mana gain than they do. Now, what else did they change? They made anti-mage cloak give a little less magic resistance, but it gives a shield that blocks magic damage, and it actually turns into jade pipe now. All right, let's see. The Steelplate mail is the same. Frantic mask is the same. Living staff's the same. Blue staff's the same. This is similar. This one's different. This is the exchange for claw wand. Now, early game, if you get a hammer and a life crystal, you can make a python wand. It's essentially a claw wand, but with less time. It's only 3 seconds of immunity to abilities, and I feel like it's not long enough. Most of the time, mid-game, they're not getting their ults off in the first 3 seconds, so I don't find this item very good. Sure, if you get to the claw wand, it's nice, but it takes, look at 8 seconds, way better. Claw wand's really good, it's just so hard to get to it now. And like you can't get to it later, it's just giving mages free reign mid game right now. Maelstrom's the same. They just changed how you make it. 2 hammers now. Puppet mask is the same thing. Pulse staff is the same, except the thing about this pulse staff is you can now get it early. You can get it rounds 1 to 3. So this is an item I pick up a lot, but we'll get back into that soon. Shadow Edge is like a mini Battle Fury. It does the same pure damage as a full Battle Fury. The full Battle Fury just gives you a little more attack speed, which is such a negligible difference that like this is so strong early with assassins. Cloud Halberd, this item's a lot easier to get now. You can get it early, obviously. The thing is, it only does 3 seconds in the first part of it. Like the Halberd of Judgment does 5 seconds still, but they nerfed Cloud Halberd to only do 3 because it was so strong early game. Like taking a unit out for 5 seconds early game is so big, especially when there's only like 3-4 units on your board. Okay, so get into the legendaries. What did they change? Overfresh does the same thing technically, but it's just harder to get. You can't get it around 10 anymore. Jade Pipe gives you a magic shield around you, kind of like Heaven's Gift, just for magic. Barbaric Curse is the same thing, except actually I don't know if the old one gave you mana and restore, but the other effects are the same. It still takes away armor and attack speed. This is what they made Frantic Mask go into now. So Dragon Blood Axe makes kind of the same items, but through a different path. So this is just like an increased Frantic Mask. It does more lifesteal, and it stops the target that your unit's hitting from recovering HP. So it's really good versus like goblins and other people with lifesteal. So like this one's a little different nowadays. Monkey King Bar is the same thing, but there's no more feathers essentially in the meta because there's 6 hunters so big right now, so I wouldn't even worry about it. Scythe of Eyes is much harder to make now. It gives a lot of ability damage. I generally don't make it unless I don't have a chance to make Refresher. Then I'll make this thing just because the ability damage is so big for mages. Dragon Ballista is the same. Heaven's Gift acts exactly the same, except now you need armor, life crystal, and then a freaking dragon blood axe, which is so much for just Heaven's Gift. So I wouldn't make it unless like you have nothing else to make at the end of the game. Ice armor is different now. It now takes armor, sword, and the nether essence. In the shield, it blocks 300 damage, lasts for 6 seconds. While the shield disappears or being destroyed, deals magic damage equal to 120% of damage absorbed to enemies within 5 grids. Plus reduce the enemy for 5 seconds. This is cool because now it doesn't pop instantly. Before it would pop instantly and pretty much not hit the enemies unless you were right up to them. Now it pops after the fact. So this makes it a lot better of an item, especially since it does a lot of damage back to them. And the attack speed's slow. It's not a bad item nowadays, like, because the only thing you could do with 2 armors otherwise is get a Barbaric Cuirass, which is good. They both build off the same thing, but if you have like 1 armor instead of 2, you can always just make this and it's still nice. It's just an improved claw wand, nothing different. Mjolnir is the same as last time. Heart of Tarask now gives you like lifesteal around you. This item used to be really sick because it would give you an immense amount of HP, but now I don't think it's that great of an item to make, because if I get a dragon blood axe, I would rather make that all day, most of the time. The Pulse Staff level 2 now is with a Pulse Staff 1 and a Mysterial Staff. I usually never make this item unless I have no chance of getting there's no chance of me getting a Refresher Orb, then I'll make this. But this item I generally don't want to make too much. This now is just same as it used to be, except you know we got the mini version, and then Halberd of Judgment is just the old Cloud Halberd with the 5 seconds instead of 3 seconds, except now it reduces enemy armor by 15. So this item is actually very useful to make later in the game if you can, because it pretty much acts like a halberd and Axe of Devil Blood, which is huge. Now what I want to talk about, really the big change in items, is just the early game. Nowadays you have like 4 choices essentially, so you can get Shadow Edge early if you're gonna go like assassins. Like if you're gonna go Shadow Crawler, Abyssal Crawler, and all those things, then Shadow Edge is amazing early game for them. Another early game item that I would look at getting early is Cloud Halberd, Pulse Staff, Maelstrom. Yeah, that's pretty much all the early game items I would want. So like, if you get a Cloud Halberd early, you disable them for 3 seconds. That's huge. It's pretty much swings things into your favor in a fight. Gives a lot of HP, which makes them tankier, plus the evasion can come in clutch. Pulse Staff's amazing early game, 400 damage at round 4. I mean, you could do the math. It's insane amount of damage. I usually like Pulse Staff early. I'll take it almost every time at the moment. But that's just me. That's not set in stone. It's just what I do at the moment. Maelstrom's amazing early if you can get it. You can put it on something like Taboo Witcher, who has a lot of attack speed, or like Soulbreaker. Those units have crazy attack speed early, so they would proc it as much as possible. Other honorable mentions would be a Frantic Mask, like it used to be, you know, if you're going assassins. But I still feel like a Shadow Edge is way better early game than a Frantic Mask, because Shadow Edge still gives you some attack speed, and then the pure damage AoE is just so strong. Like the minute you get Shadow Crawler 2 or Abyssal Crawler 2 with it, like they're gonna wreck face. I generally wouldn't get a Voodoo Staff early. Like you don't have mages really at that point, and your mages aren't that strong. So I would rather get a Pulse Staff if I could early game. Like I love Pulse Staff early. That's pretty much the only difference early game, is that now you just have to pick one super strong item that you want right off the bat, and then kind of build your comp off that. But the nice thing is that most of these epic items go into almost every comp, except maybe like Frantic Mask. Everything else has a use in every comp. So No real wrong choice. I wouldn't make a puppet mask. I wouldn't really make this because feather's kind of out of the meta. So like really your choices early game, I said, are Python Wand, Maelstrom, Pulse Staff, Halberd, Shadow Edge. Those are like the only things I would want to take early. And honestly, I wouldn't take Python Wand early. Like you could if you don't really have anything else good you can make. But for the most part, you're actually going to be making Maelstrom, Pulse Staff, Shadow Edge, Halberd, depending on what kind of comp you want to go. Or if you're unsure of comps, things like Halberd and Maelstrom could kind of fit most comps. This is more like assassins. Shadow Edge really is mostly assassins because hunters can't use this at all. So I would be careful if I was going hunters and made this. Halberd's just good for every comp. And a Pulse Staff's pretty much good for every comp too. The other thing about Pulse Staff that helps you win fights against people, if they have the Orb of Regen and you have a Pulse Staff, you guys actually get the same mana regeneration, but the pulse that it does that hits the enemy actually gives you mana also. So I would pick, if you have this for someone with a Orb of Regen, you'll actually get to full mana faster. Just a little note for anyone that's playing mage versus mage and stuff. Like Pulse Staff actually will give you a lot of more mana than the other mana items. So something to look into. And then late game, pretty much it's just a decision of who you're fighting. So you're fighting goblins and you're assassins, you know, you want Infused Mass to stop their lifesteal. If you're freaking versus mages, you make a Claw Wand. If you're versus anything, you make this because this is just a good item in general now. Like the reduce enemy armor plus it does what Halberd does. That's nuts. This item's actually pretty nutty, and I would opt to get it like all the time. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say about the items. If I missed anything, just let me know. But I feel like I covered everything. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think I did. If there's any questions you guys got, just ask me in the comments and I'll get back to you. Thanks and see you next time.